Good afternoon, everybody. Mark Westcott here. My co-presenter hasn't made it today, so maybe she'll join us in a minute. But welcome to Estate and Succession Mastery, every Wednesday afternoon at 4 p.m. So today we're going to talk about one of the issues that I'm sure you understand that my take in all this is to make sure that you don't leave those left behind in a situation where they haven't got enough information. They struggle, they argue, they fight, or they just simply don't know what your wishes would have been, and that in itself causes stress within the family. So one of the tools we use is a tool called the document manifest, and that is to make sure that what we do is we help people put in place a vault, so to speak, an electronic vault, to ensure that all the documents are there, all the relevant documents that will be needed when people aren't around. And remember, we just can't assume that we know when our time is up. And as I've said many times before, out of all the clients of mine that we've lost along the way and haven't made it, none have died of old age. People die. For most, death comes as a surprise. So these are the sorts of things that we do to make sure it's easier for those left behind. And unfortunately, I guess what tends to happen is people suffer what's called the invincibility delusion, where they think they're going to live forever. It's always the other guy that's something bad's going to happen to. And so what we do is try and encourage people to make sure they've at least planned, so that if something does go wrong, then these things are in place to make life easier for your family, for your loved ones, for those that are left behind, just to make life simple. So we've created this tool called the Document Manifest, and basically it's a checklist for you to make sure you've got all the documents to go through, to all the documents that you have in place, safely stored in a in a vault, and as they're required by those that are left behind, then off we go. I've just got Juanita's trying to join, and it looks like I've frozen, so I'm not sure what's happened.
Hi Mark, how are you?
Hey Juanita. So we're just starting off, and the first thing we talked about was the will score online, just to make sure that people have a
Looks like you're frozen there, Mark. So while we're waiting for Mark to reconnect, we can talk about the list of documents and topics that he is discussing today, as far as what goes into the vault. We've spoken about a lot of these topics already, particularly the discussions that need to be had before. Hi Mark, how are you going?
Don't know what happened there. My computer obviously froze, so it looks like I started off with you and then you took over without me, so you've done a great job.
I was just chatting about some of the topics we're bringing together today, and some of the documents we've spoken about that we'll be covering and bringing all together, and what we want to see in the vault that we'll be talking about today.
No, very good. Thank you for that. Good teamwork.
All right.
Yes, my computer absolutely froze, so there you go. Well done. No, look, one of the first things, as I was saying, was I think one of the greatest issues people have is they don't know what they don't know. When you go into estate planning, succession planning, it's the unknowns that always get you. And so one of the things that we've created is a thing called the Will Score online. And actually, you can just go to your computer and type in Will Score, one word, .online. And there's a whole range of questions there that will take you through, and maybe that in itself will prompt you to think about some of the things that you weren't aware of, or it may raise some questions that you need some advice on. happy to take any questions through Facebook, through the State and Succession Mastery page here on Facebook, whatever, or you know where to contact both Juanita and I. And but certainly that's you know, that's certainly a big issue, and the reason people fall over a lot of times in regard to getting this planning done is not just not knowing where to start, but what the questions they need to ask are.
Absolutely.
So would you find?
Yeah, absolutely. We've spoken before about making it as easy as possible as for those that are left behind and for your executor. And often practically what will happen if that isn't done is that those left behind will just wonder where everything is. Who do I go to? Where is everything? What documents do I need to pull together? So today's discussion is basically addressing that and trying to make it easy as possible and get everything in one place.
Okay, now this is going to be difficult for us, Juanita, because there's about 30 topics here, and we have 30 minutes. So we've
got to talk about this stuff. Can
we do this all in one day? Okay, the second thing was, this is how I always start conversations, and I know we've talked about this before, that your legacy intent. And that's really starting the conversation with your heart. And one of the first conversations I have with people is saying, you know, forget what you own and owe, your assets, your liabilities, forget all those sorts of things. If something happened to you, just tell me out of your heart what you'd want to happen. And so if you can record that or document that, then that's something really useful for when you're gone and people are going through your vault, so to speak, where all these documents are going to be held. You know, that's just going to be invaluable for them to understand, because that, you know, you can look at assets, liabilities, and what the lawyers and accountants say, but I mean, it's really important that everyone understands what mum or dad's intentions, the human intentions were. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. And I think this was probably one of the very first things we discussed in our very first Facebook live stream, that the way to get things started is just to put down on paper what's in your heart and what your wishes are. Then it's our job as lawyers and as professionals to pull that together. But that is the starting point, writing down what's in your heart, what your wishes are. Let the professionals put the legal words around that. That's
right. Let's not confuse the issue with legal stuff, but just get the heart out first. That's right. Look, the next thing we do is, when I talk about a family tree and a mud map, and the family tree basically is just to make sure we understand what your intentions are in regard to the breadth of your estate wishes. In other words, you know, if you've got uncles and aunts and cousins and nephews and nieces and so on, I mean, how far do you want your estate plan to go in regard to covering people outside your immediate family? So the family tree is all about drawing down who the important people are that you want to look after, and just drawing a bit of a rough mud map so that everyone understands, even if you don't get down into the micro detail, you understand from a helicopter point of view in regard to what's owned and owed and what the structures are and so on. So
I think it helps you to visualize it, helps you to put your plans down, helps your professionals guide you to do your estate planning, and also helps your executors and advisors afterwards, because they certainly don't know who everyone is in the family, who's who in the zoo. So it helps in many steps along the way.
Look, absolutely. Look, the next one is what we call the legacy blueprint. Now, the legacy blueprint is basically, this is for the high attention to detail people. This is actually where you have, that's not me, that's you. This is where you actually have to write. This is why a lot of people and a lot of business owners are not unlike me. They delegate this to their accountant to get this part done. But this is actually where you document, and you guys help with your due diligence, obviously, Juanita, is where you document everything you own, everything you owe, your retirement benefits, you know, superannuation retirement benefits, insurances, and so on. And they're all documented without exception, so that, and this does happen many times, you know, people might be working overseas or whatever, or one spouse is not involved in the business, doesn't have a great understanding. The legacy blueprint is kind of like the definitive blueprint of what you own, and what you want to happen to each of those assets, all else being equal. So, and this drills down to things like art, jewelry, gun collections, stamp collections, and so on. And it allows you then to write down beside that, well, look, you know, Johnny really, you know, enjoys the stamp collection, so he can have that. And Harry's a nut with guns, so we'll give Harry, maybe, give Harry the gun collection and so on, or not. So it gives you the choice. You know, the legacy blueprint's a very important part. So, and you do this as part of your planning too, obviously, Juanita.
Yeah, we obviously do it at a higher level with a purpose to pulling everything together in your legal documents. But from your point of view, I think it helps to get all of that out of your head onto a piece of paper. And I have no doubt that most people are actually surprised when they do that as to, oh, I really do have a sizable estate, or there are lots of things I need to think about, and it starts the mind ticking.
Yeah, look, absolutely. We're not going to get through these 30 things, so this may have to fold over till next week.
I'm not talking as much as I normally do, so we'll see how we go.
Okay, the next one's, well, we cover this one quickly, the tactical team we talked about last week, and that's very much about just documenting all the people that are important in your life. And if you want more information on that, go back and look at last week's session. We did a whole 30 minutes on that, but it's crucial that those that are left behind have a team of people that they can lean on when they most need it, because as they're suffering emotional paralysis, they're not going to be thinking straight. They're going to need some help. So next thing is a concept that I introduced some time ago, and it's we call it the first 90 days. And this needs more than a minute, this one. First 90 days is very much about saying, we've all seen this happen. You know, somebody passes away and everyone sits there and they're grieving and they're going, well, you know, what do we do here? What do we do there? And they can't think straight. They don't know what to do. They don't have a run sheet and so on. So what I put together to help people with was basically what you need to do on day one. And to do this now while you're around, because, you know, you as the person that's now passed away, you're the only one that knows what's up here, and you know what you'd want to happen. You know things that need to be done that maybe no one else knows. And so it gives you the opportunity to sit down and say, day one, you know, you need to do this. Look, obviously grieve, do all that sort of stuff, but there's certain things need to happen straight away. In the first week, there's certain things need to happen. In the first month, you'll need to get through some stuff. And I mean, all that includes organising funerals and so on, and you know, calling the life insurance guy, and you know, putting in claims, you know, whole lots of tax department and things like that, which probably aren't in the first. They can wait, but then you go into the second month, and you might say, and what we try and encourage people to do is to say, you know, look, maybe now's the time, you know, start, and this gets into really personal issues, and people will all have different opinions on this, but we encourage people to think about, you know, when is the appropriate time to, you know, to fold the clothes and put them in another room, or fold the clothes, put them in a box. When this stuff people don't want to talk about, but this is the stuff which really screws people up if you don't have the conversations, or if they don't have an idea on what you'd want. And because if you don't sort of pass on the conversation and say, you know, look, it's okay to give the clothes to St. Vinny's or whatever, people leave sort of tombs to their deceased, because they think that'd be insulting them if they packed it up and put them in boxes or sold them. So you need to be open and have conversations about, hey, in the second month, pack up my stuff, and you know, sure, you know, don't forget me, but don't make the house a monument to me either, and so on. And you know, take a holiday, go away, have some time, you know, to go away and to grieve and to get over, come back to a fresh start. And what I tell people in the third month too is I start to raise issues such as, you know, it's okay to let go. You know, it's okay to get on with your life, and so that people aren't for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years thinking they've just got to sit at home and do nothing because, you know, they don't want to insult the memory of their spouse. So, you know, I think it's a great opportunity. You can use this positively too, to take that opportunity and say, you know, okay, at the end of the third month, you'll know when you're ready. And I'm not saying you need to do it third month, but you know, when you're ready, please let go and get on with your life. I want you to be happy and so on. So, any thoughts in regard to the value of having that sort of manifest?
Yeah, I think it's definitely helpful to, you know, your partner or your family that are left behind. There's no right or wrong. It's always,
No.
you know, dependent on the
It's what-
individuals and how they're
Sure.
dealing with the process and with grief. I would say often we'll get phone calls from people when a loved one's passed away, and what do? I don't know what to do. And I would always recommend that don't worry about the legalities immediately. The first thing you need to do is look after yourself, to grieve, to organise a funeral. Then we'll get onto the legalities. And sure, sometimes there are things that need immediate attention, like businesses or employees, but generally the paperwork and the process can wait. And as you say, form part of that 90-day process. There's no immediate urgency or rush to panic.
No, and that's right. But if you can, you know, what you're saying is if you can say, look, forget about all that stuff until month 2, you know, like, except don't go and clean out the bank account because that's actually illegal.
No.
But
No.
so don't do that bit.
Do not do that, folks.
Don't do not do that. but all the apart from that, you know, and look, everybody's different. Everyone's going to have their own time frames. Everyone's going to have their thoughts on what's appropriate, what's not. But I mean, the point is, write it down, have the conversation, dictate it, record a video, do something like this, whatever. But at least give people the direction so that when you're not here, you know, they'll have a lot more comfort knowing what they should do based on your thoughts and hopefully your experience in regard to that matter.
And that's
Look,
where
we've talked about
help a lot, Mark, isn't it? That's where you really step in and add a lot of value to the families because with your process.
Yeah. Look, absolutely, because our process is really about all these things we're doing here. It's about because these are the non-legal things, but in a lot of ways, these are the things that, from a human point of view, are the most valuable, because this is the stuff that you know, saves the family a whole lot of grief and allows them to just grieve and to you know, to get on with grieving and get through that process without having to worry about this and that and everything else. And you know, Juanita, as you know, as part of our process, the Guardian Advantage, when one of our clients does pass, we turn up, well, I turn up, and hopefully all these documents are completed, and I can turn up and help the family through that first part where they're grieving and give them some comfort in having a sort of a run sheet to go on. So I think that's where we create a lot of value. The Dear Mary letter, look, we've talked about that, but that's your opportunity to say the things you'd never want left unsaid. You know, I don't know how else to describe that, but you know, Brian McBride, people find it really hard to record this or write this or do this. But I'm just going to say again, as we said a couple of weeks ago, the words you leave behind will be the most cherished thing that you can do for your loved ones.
Yeah, and as we've spoken about, you can say what you want to say and give recommendations as to who your loved ones can trust and who they can't trust, and you know, leave thoughts behind.
Yeah, but things like, you know, look, I hope you finish your schooling. I hope you get on to university. I hope you do this. I hope you take over you know, whatever, all the things that you'd like to, you know, hope you brush your teeth every morning, all the things that are really important about life. Okay, the next one is the Leave Well communique, which is another tool. And so what we're doing is just going through the list of documents that if you've completed these, life, look, everyone's still going to grieve, but I mean, life will be so much simpler for those left behind. The Leave Well communique is about your instructions for your funeral and things like that. So your experience in this area, Juanita?
Again, probably,
yeah,
probably somewhat repeating myself as far as the things that we've said before, but just to give that direction, have it down on paper. Just the purpose is to remove the confusion and the grief and the distress for the people behind and provide clarity and guidance. So that's basically I think the main advantages out of putting that in place. Okay,
moving on from there, we talk about the Saving Grace folder, but in a way, this whole thing, the document manifest is, you know, the vault, whether it's an electronic vault or you store these all manually, that becomes what we named the Saving Grace folder, because it will be the saving grace of the family when you're not here. I put down copies of wills for all the other family members as well, because, you know, it's just I think you know, if you create this document manifest, and this is a checklist we use with clients each year to check whether or not they've done them, whether they've uploaded them into the electronic vault or whatever. But, you know, sometimes, you know, clients come along and mum and dad get very excited about doing their wills, and they forget about the kids who might be in their 20s, early 30s, or whatever, you know, late teens, 20s into their 30s. And it's important to make sure that and the reason I have it on the checklist is to make sure that we get everyone covered off on this, because, you know, there can be a lot of wealth transferred if mum and dad die and then the kids die soon after. You know, you need to make sure this is all taken care of.
Absolutely. So as a reminder to keep one's estate planning updated through the generations, you know, absolutely essential. As you were talking, you know, I thought it'd be useful to add that a lot of people don't realize a few things practically. So nowadays we don't always have we don't have a reading of a will that maybe historically.
Don't you?
Once upon a time, no, we don't have any formal cinema or reading. All beneficiaries named in a will are entitled to a copy. It's a good idea to let them know, your family or executors, where your original will is. We don't want people scrapping around trying to find bits and bobs. So again, just a few tips to make things easier.
So all that stuff in the movies where the family gather around the lawyer's desk and you know, they're all sitting there somber in a dark room, that just doesn't happen anymore. How does it happen?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. I've had that happen once. I have had a formal reading once at the request of a large Italian family, but not necessary and very rare. Yep.
These days, as you say, everyone's got a copy of the will, so and their advisors come in and everyone. And I mean, these days it's probably more rare, isn't it, to have you know, 15 people lined up in a room saying, you know, am I getting that painting? You know, am I getting that car? It's probably simpler than that these days, isn't it, in a lot of ways?
Yeah,
yep.
That's right.
Okay, enduring powers of attorney, medical health directives and so on. And as I say, this is a checklist I use each year with our clients to make sure they've got current, this is to save what we call delinquent documents, just to make sure they've got current copies of all this stuff in their vault. So enduring powers of attorney, health directives and so on. I mean, they're becoming more and more common, aren't they, the health directives, Juanita?
Yeah, absolutely. And enduring powers of attorney are so important these days. People living longer, people are going through capacity issues in their older age. So really important. We've spoken about these documents before. You know, advanced health directives allowing you to put down on paper what your wishes are as far as detailed medical decisions such as life prolonging and resuscitation. But I think the benefit of what you just said, Mark, is that it's important to jog the memory and ask yourself every year or every couple of years or whenever something happens, do I need to update it? So very, very important.
Absolutely. Now, look, there's the next one is buy-sell agreements. And I'm just going to say here, I had a conversation with a lady yesterday, and she was saying how she and her mother and father own all their properties. They're rural people. They own all their properties in a partnership. And she was telling me how each of them, on their death, were going to allocate their share of the partnership to, you know, the different children, grandchildren, and so on. And I, you know, sort of shook my head and thought, I was at university and learned about partnerships. My understanding was when a partnership, when someone dies, the partnership dissolves unless you've got a very good partnership agreement which sets out the rules on death. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. The law says that unless it has been otherwise provided for in a partnership agreement or in a will, when someone dies, a partnership's dissolved and a new partnership would need to be established. So I guess in this sort of little series of topics on the list, it's important to have the correct documentation in place for the succession of your various entities in your business. So buy, sells, shareholders agreements, partnership agreements, they're all things that really need to be considered as part of your plan and kept together, kept everything together. So it's nice and easy.
That's right. In one area, not in 10 different areas. Maybe we can come back and talk about partnerships, because I must admit, in rural families, I'm finding more and more rural families, are still operating in partnerships, which kind of intrigues me a little as to why is it so. The next topic, so we'll do that for another day maybe. But going through the list here, the next one is financial planning reviews, which, you know, when you're talking about estates and succession plan and all that sort of stuff, everyone's thinking about the big picture stuff. But I mean, the truth is, you know, I'm worrying about what's going to happen when everyone dies early. But the other side of the coin is what happens if everyone lives to 100, and that's why it's just as important to make sure you do have a financial planning, a financial plan in place, and you've thought through, you know, as much as we talk about what happens when people die, you know, hopefully they won't, and they'll live through to a ripe old age. And you just got to make sure that mum and dad can afford to go and live, you know, in a caravan traveling Australia for the rest of their lives, or you know, in Mount Coolum or wherever it is they want to go. Sorry.
Not during COVID.
Not during, well, obviously not during COVID. That's right. But a financial plan is just as important as an estate plan, surely.
Absolutely, and especially in these modern times where superannuation is becoming quite a considerable proportion of people's wealth. Having the right advice as to how to manage your super and how to have that invested and how to have that plan for the future is of vital importance, because, as you say, Mark, people are living longer, and you don't want to have to retire at a much later age than you wished, because you didn't have these sort of things in place. So it's getting in now to make a better future for yourself.
Oh, look, absolutely. And I'm just going to go back and cover off on an issue here about which is more important, the estate plan or the financial plan. My attitude has always been, look, what's the most urgent thing? The most urgent thing out of an estate plan, a succession plan, and a financial plan, the most urgent thing is the estate plan, because we don't know how many days, how many breaths, how many heartbeats we've got left. And so, you know, I always push the idea of make your priority getting your make your priority getting your estate plan in place first, because that way, if you had been hit by the truck last night, all this stuff is, you know, the ongoing succession of your assets and so on is all taken care of. The succession plan normally falls straight off the back of the estate plan, because once people think through and work out what they'd want to happen if they die, that usually is very much what they want to happen if they live as well, but over a longer period of time, that they move the farm or the assets to the children over a period of time, whatever. So instead of it happening straight away, it's something that they want to progress over a period of time. But I mean, it's just so interlinked too as the financial plan, so that the succession plan can work, so that mum and dad can afford to move off the farm and to move away, hopefully have other interests, and give the kids a chance to be in charge of the farm at some stage, and they can then everyone can get on with their lives. So that's kind of my priority list, I guess. That's,
yeah,
you know, sort of estate. Yeah, estate is obviously number one, but the succession plan and the financial plan then can come after you've made sure you've locked down the estate plan.
Yeah, and probably helpful to put that estate plan in place and work backwards, because it'll answer some questions that will need to be answered when you get to your succession plan and your financial plan. And as we've said before, especially last week, talking about the tactical team, when you have those people working together, you know, your lawyer, your financial planner, your accountant, your advisor, whatever, that's when the magic happens.
Absolutely. And you know what, we talk too much. We got halfway. I've drawn a line across halfway down the list, and that's as far as we got. But look, let me just, if I can just summarize what we've been talking about today. The tool is the document manifest, and basically what that is, it's manifest. Think of it as ship's log or whatever. A manifest is that each year I want to be able to sit down with people and say, okay, let's go through and tell me, show me your up-to-date document here, or how long is it since you've updated this document, or whatever, so that you've always got relevant, up-to-date, and appropriate documentation. And it's just a great way to make sure you're on track with everything, so that whenever something bad happens to you, everything's at least no more than 12 months old and is still current and relevant. And that's going to be the greatest gift you can leave your family and loved ones, is to leave them peace of mind of knowing that all this stuff is kind of taken care of. So until next week, we'll go through the bottom half of the list. Not that they're not as important, but go through the second half of the list and talk about the other things you need to make sure are there, because these are the things that your family will be struggling to find when you're gone.
Yeah.
And so these are the important stuff. So thanks, Vanita. Thanks again for coming along and rescuing when my technology didn't work. And we'll catch up again next week. Whoops,
Thanks,
but not before I play the outro. See you, Vanita. Bye.
Bye-bye.